Ever feel like you're drowning in emails at 11 p.m. while your Instagram feed shows everyone else living their best life? Or maybe you've been told that hustle culture is the only way to succeed, but something about working 80-hour work weeks until you burn out just doesn't feel right? What if I told you that the entire conversation about work-life balance has been hijacked by people with something to sell you, either selling you on working yourself to the bone, or selling you on a fantasy that doesn't exist in the real world? As someone who struggled through junior college with grades, I've had to learn some hard lessons about work, success, and balance. And I've discovered something crucial about work-life balance that nobody seems to. It's not what the gurus tell you. It's not what the lifestyle influencers show you. And it's definitely not what your boss wants you to believe. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to share my honest, unfiltered opinion about work-life balance, what it really means, why so many people get it wrong, and how you can find your own version that actually works. No BS, no selling you on some course, just real talk. Stay with me. This might just change how you think about your entire career. So, exactly is work-life balance? It sounds simple enough, right? Having time for a job and, well, everything else. But if it were that simple, we would not be having this conversation. Let me start with a basic definition. Work-life balance is the equilibrium, where a person equally prioritizes his work commitments and the demands of his personal life. Sounds nice on paper, doesn't it? But here's the thing. This term has exploded in popularity over the last decade, especially among younger generations, and for good reason. For millennials, they entered the workforce close to the time period of the 2008 financial crisis. Many of you have watched your parents work to the bone for companies that ultimately did not return that loyalty. Well, I guess they returned it, retrenchment and firing. We saw firsthand what happens when work consumes everything. And Gen Z, we're entering a workforce that's more connected, more demanding, and more always on than ever before. When your boss can text you at 10 p.m. on a Saturday to work, you really start to question the boundaries between work and life because it becomes theoretical at best. The conversation around work-life balance is not just some trendy buzzword or entitlement as some would believe. It's a direct response to how work has fundamentally changed in our lifetime. Think about it. 50 years ago, when you left the office, you were done. No emails, no Zoom calls from your living room. Work stayed at work. Today, this little device means work follows us everywhere. The physical boundaries are gone, so we are trying to create psychological instead. And that's where the conversation gets interesting and complicated. Because while the term work life balance might be relatively new in our cultural vocabulary, the struggle for work that it represents is as old as work itself. How much of ourselves do we give to our jobs? How much do we keep for ourselves, our families, and our passions? But before I give you my take on this, we need to address the elephant in the room. An extremely biased perspective that dominates a lot of conversation around this topic, and this comes from a very specific group of people with their own hidden agenda. Let's talk about the loudest voices in work-life balance conversation. Successful entrepreneurs and business leaders. You know the type. They are all over social media and bestseller lists telling you, I wake up at 4 a.m., work 18 hours a day, have not taken a vacation in 5 years, and that's why I'm successful. Work-life balance is for the mediocre. Hustle harder. Here's what they are not telling you. Their perspective is incredibly biased, and for a few very important reasons that affect you directly. First, There's a massive survivorship bias at play. For every entrepreneur preaching the gospel of endless hustle who made it, there are thousands who burned out, ruined their health, damaged their relationships, and still did not achieve their financial goals. We just don't hear their stories because, well, they're not famous enough to be on stage at conferences or writing best-selling books. Secondly, many of these entrepreneurs have a vested interest in promoting hustle culture. Think about it. If you're selling courses, books, or coaching programs on how to succeed, it's a lot more marketable to promise results through extreme dedication than to admit the fact that luck, privilege, and circumstance play crucial roles. Third, and this is crucial, many entrepreneurs are talking about their businesses as if they're talking about your job. But the thing is, they're not even remotely related. There is a fundamental difference between working 80 hours a week on something you own, control, and love versus working 80 hours for someone else's dream. But the most insidious part, many business leaders promote this work above all mentality because it directly benefits them. When employees believe that working nights and weekends is the path to success, companies are able to extract more value while providing the same compensation. It's essentially squeezing every employee to the fullest under the guise of opportunity and growth. That said, I'm not saying that all entrepreneurs and business leaders are deliberately saying that for their own profit. Many genuinely believe what they are preaching because it worked for them. But the experience is not universal, and their advice is not objective. So, before you internalize that balance is for the mediocre, true success requires sacrificing everything else in your life. Remember who's delivering that message and why. Now, having said all that, I'm not here to tell you that hard work doesn't matter or that it's useless. In fact, my personal take may surprise you. Now that we've cleared the air about the biased perspectives out there, let me share my own take on work life balance. And it might not be what you suspect. First, let's get something straight. Do not confuse work life balance with laziness. They are not the same thing. I believe in working hard. I believe in giving your best effort. I believe in going above and beyond when it matters. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that success comes without effort because that would be an utter lie. As someone that struggled academically before, I know firsthand that sometimes even your best effort may not yield the results you're hoping for. But that doesn't mean the effort wasn't worth it or that you should stop trying. Here's where my perspective differs from the hustle culture gurus. I don't believe in sacrificing everything, nor working yourself to a point of burnout. And I certainly don't believe that your value as a human being is defined by your academic achievements or your productivity. The truth is, work-life balance isn't about working less, it's about working purposefully. Think about it this way. There's a big difference between working 60 hours a week because you're inefficient, disorganized, or just trying to maintain the facade of looking busy, or working 60 hours a week because you're dedicated to build something meaningful, learn valuable skills, or in the critical growth phase. One leads to burnt out and resentment, while the other can lead to growth and fulfillment. And this is where I think the conversation around work-life balance often misses the mark. It's not about the number of hours. It's about the purpose behind those hours. Whether you're being recognized and rewarded for the extra time that you put in. Whether you have autonomy over when and how you work. And whether it requires sacrificing the things that truly matter to you. Here's my perso- Here's my personal philosophy. I believe in seasons of life. There are seasons where work takes precedence. When you're establishing yourself, learning new skills, or pursuing a specific goal. In my opinion, when you're just starting to work, you should be prepared to put in a little more effort because you're still exploring and discovering your skills. During these seasons, balance might look like 70% work and 30% others. And there are seasons where other priorities need to take center stage. Family, health, personal growth. During these seasons, maybe it's 40% work, 60% others. The key is to recognize which season you're in, being intentional about it, and not getting stuck in a season that's no longer serving you. But most importantly, and this is crucial, you need to actively show your own contributions and advocate for yourself, even if you're not a salesman. Because it is the harsh reality today that silent hard work often goes unnoticed. You need to make the conscious effort to make your value visible, documenting your wins, and yes, even promoting yourself, because who else would do that for you? If you truly desire to be successful, you understand how important it is to market yourself. I know what you're thinking right now. This all sounds great in theory, but the reality is a genuine conundrum. And I want you to know that I see it, I understand it. Here's the painful truth that creates the impossible situation for so many of us. Working hard does not guarantee opportunities, promotions, or success. But yet, not working hard virtually guarantees that you have never have any access to those. It's like being told you need to buy a lottery ticket to win the lottery, but buying the ticket doesn't mean you'll win. Far from it. Not buying one means you definitely won't. And reality is way worse. And this creates an impossible calculation we're all trying to solve. How much of myself do I give to a job that might never reward that sacrifice? How do I protect my health, relationships, and joy while still advancing my career? How do I compete in a world where someone is always to work longer and harder than me? And how do I know when I'm being exploited versus when I'm investing in my future? I've heard from my parents that they have friends that work 80-hour weeks for years, sacrificing everything only to be passed over for promotion. And yet others are able to set firm boundaries and leave at 5 p.m. every day and somehow rise through the ranks. Yes, the system often feels unfair, random, and designed to extract maximum value while providing minimal compensation. And let's acknowledge something else. This conversation looks very different depending on your circumstances. If you're a single parent juggling multiple jobs to make ends meet, the luxury of even contemplating balance would seem like an absurd thing. For many people, it's not about finding balance, it's about survival. So, I want to validate what many of you are feeling. The frustration is real, the anxiety just, the exhaustion is understandable. And anyone who offers simple one-size-fits-all solutions to this complex problem is either naive or selling something. But here's what I've learned through my own journey. We need to work both hard and smart. We need to be strategic about where we invest our energy. We need to recognize that sometimes it's not about working more or less. It's about working differently, working smart. Let me share some practical thoughts on how to approach this in your own life. So, where does all this lead us? How do we navigate this complex terrain of work life balance in a world that often seems designed to push us towards extremes? Let me share some practical thoughts that have helped me find my own version of balance, even after struggling academically and feeling like I was being left behind. First, recognize that balance looks different for everyone. Your version of balance may be 50-hour work weeks and intense focus during your work, with weekends being completely disconnected. Someone else might be 35 hours, with more integration between work and personal life. There is no single correct formula. It's about what works for you and your unique situation. Second, be intentional about your seasons. There will be times where work has to take priority. A big project, a promotion opportunity, or building a new skill to upgrade your own portfolio. Embrace these seasons, but don't let them become your permanent state. Set clear endpoints and communicate them to yourself and others to protect your psychological boundaries. Third, audit your energy, not just your time. An hour spent on work you find meaningful might energize you, while an hour of busy work might drain you completely. The quality of your work hours matter as much as the quantity. Focus on eliminating and delegating the energy draining tasks where possible. Fourth, make your contributions visible. Document your wins, share your successes appropriately, and ensure decision makers know your value. You don't need to be brag. You don't need to brag, but you need to be your own advocate. Fifth, set boundaries and communicate them clearly. Whether it's not checking email after 7 p.m., protecting your weekends, or taking your vacation days. Boundaries only work when they are consistently enforced and clearly communicated. And remember, people respect what you teach them to respect. And finally, this might be the most important point, regularly assess whether your situation is serving you. Sometimes finding balance means changing jobs, changing careers, or changing your relationship with work entirely. Remember that work is just one dimension of a fulfilling life. Your health, relationships, passions, personal growth, and contribution to others are equally valid dimensions that deserve your energy and attention. The truth is, there's no perfect answer to the work-life balance question. It's a deeply personal journey that evolves throughout your life. What worked for you at 20 might not work at 30 or 40, but I believe that by approaching this challenge thoughtfully, rejecting the extremes of both toxic hustle culture and complete disengagement, we can each find our own sustainable path forward. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. What does work-life balance mean to you? What strategies have helped you navigate this challenge? Drop a comment below and let's continue this important conversation together. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content like this. And if you know someone who's struggling with these same questions, share this video with them. Sometimes, knowing we are not alone in these challenges can make all the difference. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next time, remember, your worth isn't measured by your productivity or your academic achievements. And a life well lived includes work, but is never defined by it alone.